When speaking on a perspective of what systems are limited in being outsourced, there's two things that you have to understand is that one is what's humanly possible. This could mean that some things just aren't meant for it because you aren't built a certain way. Uh, and I know it's a hard pill to swallow, believe me. I've tried one of them, uh, getting your tonsils removed. Keep it PG, guy, PG. A cicada, it clings onto a tree so strong. And then if we're trying to do that, it won't be as effective because we don't have that dynamic. Ants on the ground. Have you ever seen their feet? I don't think they have any, but how can they always truck along if they're walking on stubs? I saw a person and their feet were so badly cropped out of line that they were basically just walking on their ankles, aka stubs. So before I get off on tangents, that's what's humanly possible, being what's the word, dignified. And so, because there's always the royals that can have like 1,000 people break their feet in half and call it a tradition, and now all of a sudden women in China have shoes that are made to break their feet in half. Another stub footing. No, that's the history of China, so I'm not putting it past them. Believe me, they've already had it. Uh, but then there's what is physically, like planetary wise, out of bounds. Like on planet Earth, it's saying there's limited resources. We need to double down and stuff. And I'm not trying to speak on what Dalton came up with in portraying what a societal norm would be if there wasn't any outliers. So those are two things that are physically and then human, like things that are outsourced. And when I'm speaking on like something, what I'd like to bring in the forefront is an encyclopedia, and then just to make like the encyclopedia a format for stand-up. And that's where I'm going currently. But that's just way out there if you want to be wordy, and I'm trying to make an entire encyclopedia to not be as wordy. It's a hard toss-up, but this is one thing that you can do to undermine code. Coding with electronics is different than nature, and if you have a fine divide, you can show one from the other. And this is back with the universe being a simulation, quote unquote. Things that are made inside labs, it's really interesting. I think of Rumpelstiltskin making gold out of like wheat hay. That's essentially a cash cow if you're making these bioweapons. And so if you have the tools to do these and the instructions, you just call up the college, Boston College, University of North Carolina. I think there's a third one out west, and they'll say, yes, you can come in here and make these bioweapons, and here's XYZ of what we've gotten towards every day when we're doing this. And this is to make a anti-weapon, the cure to one. But only the thing is that they don't happen naturally in nature. So this is where it gets into coding, because coding is like an electronic signal of binary component. You could say a crash of lightning is like a random configuration of electrons, and you'd be right, it is. But that specific electron configuration, if you were to take a still shot picture of it, that same configuration is what these viruses, when they keep mutating, they have a specific genealogy fingerprint of a chimera, and it's just like equivalent to this thunderbolt, but on a large scale. When you're trying to quote unquote bend a curb, the maximum capacity of that curb would be like equivalent to the Thunderbolt in all of its glory. If it's the biggest crack, you want it right at the middle of it cracking, so that's its maximum capacity. So it is easier to have a more significant code. And this just is what it is, folks. And I'm not trying to write an entire encyclopedia on everything in the entire world, but at least to number what coding could be. And why I want to do is make an I-beam and then surface that to its interface. Its interface would be, of course, a web, a spider web, and this would be held up on two rods. It's like there's these metal things that find natural in nature, and if you have a spider web between them, it would be like a cracked iPhone screen. And I don't want to go into what an LED light is because I don't like them, but besides that fact is when they're all together, they're having like an entire rainbow spectrum of the color red, blue, green, but it's just dialed in, all closely knit together to, I don't know, I'd have to look up holographics and how they work and coincide that too. This computer I just brought up to the forefront, I don't know, it's just like a cartoon design, but in Marvel Comics, like this guy like drew a whole bunch of designs, and if you can make the design look like it's important, it actually like is believability. That's a different thing in marketing. If you get someone emotionally, it's better than for the masses to have that for a sales pitch. So that's the difference of knowing you're not in the matrix and then falling for it. Hard when fields aren't known. Maybe I should make the encyclopedia for just unknown fields, so everything that isn't covered in the current day and age across the fields.